Right, so I'm going to walk you through how I sew the collar application for the Muna and Broad Waikerie shirt. This collar application is a little bit different from some other applications because it's a camp style collar, which means it's soft and you can open it and wear it open. Anyway, so I've got my collar pieces here. I have them right sides together and I have it interfaced on this side. So I'm just going to sew around the longer edge in a 3/4 box, I suppose, with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Oops, sorry. You have to excuse the noise as well. Like my sewing machine is really loud. I'm also trying to reach around the camera, which is kind of tough. Anyway, here we go. Right, just going to compare my corner angles here of my stitching. It's not bad. I think that'll be pretty good. So what you can do is we're going to clip this down now. So I'm just going to move that light a bit. Oops. Okay, sorry, I'm bumping the camera too. Okay, I'm going to clip this down. So just clipping it off at an angle like that first. Like that. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grade this collar to remove bulk. So I'm just going to cut away one layer of that seam allowance. This is a pretty stable fabric, so I can go fairly close. Okay, and now anywhere where there is like a concave section, I'm going to clip. So I'm just clipping in towards that seam allowance. Just allows that curve to turn well. Okay, so I'm going to turn it. I like to stick my thumb up here. Just gonna move that light a bit. There we go. Stick my thumb inside all the way to the corner, and then I separate those seam allowances, stick my finger in there, and then turn it. That helps me get it pretty good. Same on the other side. I'm gonna put my thumb inside. Oops, trying not to unthread my machine. Then my finger. Then turn it. You get something handy and pointy. I'm gonna use tweezers. Sometimes I'm really evil and I use scissors, but you know, it's dangerous to use scissors. Okay, I'm gonna press this, and then I'm going to pin stitch around the edge of that, and then I'll be back. Right, so here is the front of my shirt, and there's that yoke. Remember, this is a forward shoulder. The yoke actually sits way in front of your shoulder, so anyway, it does. So we're going to start by taking our collar, which we've pressed nicely, and finding this notch in from the edge of the front of the garment. So we're going to take this edge here and we're going to place it right on top of that notch, okay? And pop a pin. Note here that I have the right side, oops, actually I've got it upside down. Okay, here we go. This is good, I checked. So the side that you want up on the collar is actually going to be the interfaced side. So let's try that again. Place that edge of the collar right on that notch. Pop a pin in it. And then you have some notches on the collar. You're going to place those on top of this seam here. I'm going to refer to it as the shoulder seam, even though it's not technically on the shoulder, but it's the closest thing we have. So just keeping that, what would you call it, flush with the edge of the neckline there. So the collar is straighter than the curve of the neckline. Now, we'll have to ease it in a bit because the collar is straighter, so just line it up in the middle there. Give it a pin. You can even pop more pins in if you like, so you could put in some more pins. So now I'm going to stitch with a 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch seam allowance between, so from here at that shoulder seam notch to this one here. Okay, you'll do that on both sides, but I'll just show you, I'll show you on this one. Here's my front facing. So I'm going to line up that front corner with the front facing with the shirt here. But you'll notice that it'll extend past this shoulder seam. So what I'm going to do is fold this back 1/2 inch because that's the seam allowance of the shoulder seam. Okay, I'm just finger pressing it in, which works fine. And then matching this seam here underneath there with the edge here and that notch. So all three things are going to kind of converge. Okay, pop a pin in it. And that's going to extend all the way down the center front. You will notice that the front facing is too short, and that's on purpose. It's supposed to be too short, so don't fret. You should have a notch on here about 1 centimeter up from the bottom. Let me just find there it is, my seam gauge. So the hem depth is 2 inches. So if I place my seam gauge down 2 inches from there, from the bottom, I want to line it up so my stitching line, which is 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch, is sitting 2 inches up from the bottom. Do you see that? So I have my seam gauge sitting 2 inches here. On this end, it's 1 centimeter or 3/8 of an inch up. I'm going to pin it there. So I'm going to sew along that neckline. I'm going to pivot at this front corner here, sew all the way down the front. When I reach here, 1 centimeter from the bottom, I'm going to pivot and stitch across to here and then stop. Okay? Let's pop another pin in here just for good luck along the center front. Okay. Remember, this neckline and the facing is all a 1 centimeter seam allowance or 3/8 of an inch. Oops, can't get to that. Okay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to understitch. I'm going to grade this and understitch it. So just going to cut back some of this facing seam allowance. So you can see I'm just taking off some of the facing seam allowance. I'm leaving the center front of the main shirt free. I'm also using my clippers, which is I always do it. I'm going to clip this corner, so off at an angle, all the layers. Then more at an angle. Okay, so I'm going to understitch some of this center front. Now I don't want to start understitching as high as I can, because if we want to wear the shirt open, then we don't want that understitching showing. I'm going to suggest you start it at about 5 inches or thereabouts from the center, from the top edge there. So I'm just going to take this facing and I'm going to flip it open. Just feeling to make sure all of those seam allowances are going towards that facing there. So I can just lift it up and check, have a look. Everything's all good. So I'm just understitching just a pin's width away from this fold line. So I can feel here that the seam allowances that are on this side are kind of flipped under. I can check, and that's the case. So I'm just going to roll them out. You won't be able to go all the way down to the bottom, and that's okay. Okay. This is really bulky here, so I'm going to also grade this down a bit as well. So actually I'm going to sew the other side, then I'll come back and I'll show you. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how I'm going to clip this up. So here's our center front here. I'm going to do some grading on the facing seam allowance first, and taking it back pretty far, actually. Pretty close to that stitching line. And then I'm going to cut out some of this collar. I want to make sure that I don't clip back the collar past that shoulder seam at this point. Now I'm going to flip it over. Actually, no, I'm going to stay on this side, sorry. So you can see, so I can see my stitching line there. I'm going to clip in towards that stitching line, pretty close together, but I don't want to go through the stitching line. So just on the curved part. Okay, great. Now I'm going to turn this through. You can see I've got a couple of rows of stitching here, the stay stitching and the first row of stitching. That's not a big deal, we can just unpick that later. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side as well. Just using my scissors to gently ease that point. Don't push too hard. Yeah, just don't push too hard. So you can see I'm only turning through the top of the collar. I'm leaving, sorry, the top of the front facing. I'm leaving the bottom of the front facing the right way out. So we want to have that extension here, and that's so partially so that when the collar's worn open, you have a nice kind of lapel thing happening, and it's also so that we can button it up. Okay. So we have this back part of the collar and the yoke naked. So what we want to do is we want to attach the back of the collar to the back of the shirt. So at this point, we're going to lift up this interface part of the collar, and we're just going to pin this under collar, so the part of the collar that won't be seen, to that back neckline. I'm just going to turn it around here. So now I'm looking at it like this. So I've got, this is my collar, this is my front facing. So I'm just opening that collar up. I'm just going to pin, so I'm opening it up. This is where I stopped stitching last time. Okay, that's that shoulder seam. I'm going to pin the collar, the under collar, to both layers of the back yoke. So again, that upper collar is just floating free. Okay, here's that shoulder seam. Start pinning from this side. This is just so I know how much to ease in. Not much at all, actually. You might find your collar might have stretched a little bit. It's not too curved, so it hopefully wouldn't have stretched too much, but you might have a little bit of easing to do in, but hopefully not. If you do, just put another pin in to evenly distribute that. Okay, so now I'm going to sew the back portion of that collar between the shoulder seams, the under collar to the two back yokes. So you have to lift up that interface part of the collar. See, those are my shoulder notches for the collar. I'm going to put it under here, and I'm really aiming to begin my stitching exactly where I stopped. So right in there is where I stopped stitching the front part of the collar on. Now I'm going to stitch the back part of the collar on. So again, using a 1 centimeter seam allowance, or 3/8 of an inch. I'm just holding that upper collar out of the way, making sure that there's no folds under there. So when I do it, like, I can feel with my fingers, and I'll have to kind of shift the rest of the shirt around out of the way to keep it flat without any tucks in it. Okay, I'm just feeling there, pivoting this around to get it to sit flat. There's a bit of a lump here, but I'm gonna miss it. Okay, I'm gonna peel this upper collar back so I can see where I'm aiming to end, which is just there. So I've ended exactly where I started, or ended the other sewing. Okie dokie. So here's that front facing, here's the collar. And we've got that back neckline. Now, if you look underneath that front facing, you'll see the seam allowances are going down. That's what we want. But, you know, we don't want the seam allowances like hanging down the back of our neck. So we have to get these seam allowances so we can flip them up inside the collar. So if you lift up that front facing, you'll see there's, you know, a pretty big wad of seam allowances. Getting your scissors, I'm just clipping through all 3 layers. I'm just going to give one big good snip. Just trying to make it so you can see well. So this is the front facing. There's that shoulder seam. I'm going to just give a good snip. I'm going to just look underneath, make sure I'm only getting those layers. I'm doing it just this side of where that folded over edge of the front facing is. Clipping in deep, and what that allows me to do is just flip those seam allowances up into the collar. Now, there's a huge mare's nest of seam allowances and stuff there, so I'm gonna clip them out. You know, cutting out bulk makes a big difference. So I've just cut out some of that shoulder seam there. Oh, that's so much better. Now when I flip it up into there, it's a lot more flat. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to show you. So here's that front facing again. And all the seam allowances want to go down because they're going down underneath there. But I'm gonna just slightly towards the front from that folded over facing, and making sure I'm not clipping into the shirt, just the seam allowances. I'm gonna clip deeply into there. You can just check, right? So great, that's going to be allowing me to do that. And now I've got all this bulk I have to deal with. So I'm going to clip away some of that bulk. Make sure you're not clipping any of that upper collar away. Just some of the seam allowances for that shoulder seam. Much better. Okay, doing well here. This is the back neck. We need to do some clipping into the curve. So I'm just holding it so that everything's moved away. All I've got is the seam allowances in my hand. Oops, look, I have a little pucker there, so I'm going to resew that. I'm just going to clip through that stitch. Just pull it apart a little bit. Kind of finger press that out. It's no problem to have these little issues. Okay, so I'm just kind of pressing it out, and I'm just going to sew over it. So you don't even need to like back tack if you're overlapping well with your other stitching. That was easy to fix. Didn't have to unpick the whole lot. Feel anything funny going on, you just have a look. Oh, it's just some extra fluff. So here we have 3 layers. We've got a layer of collar and we've got some yoke. I'm just gonna trim out a bit more bulk. Call me obsessive. It's okay. I can take it. This bit's optional. The rest of the clipping's not. I think learning to clip really well will make a big difference to your garment sewing. You just get a kind of feeling for it. Could have done this before I clipped into the curve. That probably would have been smart, but anyway. Okay, almost there. Right. Okay, so here's that front facing, that nice corner. So now I'm able to press that seam allowance up inside the collar. Okay, so oops, better clean out some of that junk out of my collar. There we go. So you can go ahead and you can press that up. I actually don't need to because this is a linen and it's just gonna lie really flat for me. So next thing is, you know, obviously we don't want this raw edge here of that collar. So we're going to just lay it flat on the table and just fold this bottom edge of that collar up. And it's going to be up, I would call it a scant centimeter. So I guess more than half a centimeter, less than a centimeter. So that's more than more than 1/4 inch, but less than 3/8 of an inch. So I'm just popping that up. So you can see I'm folding it over and laying it basically right on top of that other stitching line. And I'm gonna pop a pin in it. Okay, when it comes to this bit that we clipped, it's gonna cut out a bit more of that bulk. Okay, tucking it up. There, and then flipping this down like that. Because this is not curving around the neck, that'll want to kind of ruck up like that, but that's okay for now. Okay, got this nice and flat, pinning here. So just folding it under just a scant centimeter. What you want to avoid is pulling this too far. Like if I folded it a lot and pulled it down too far, what would happen is the collar won't roll over and sit flat. So that's why we err on the side of less, because we want that upper collar to roll over. I'm trying to do it with one hand just so that you can see well. Need to cut some more of this. There we go. So bulky still. Futzing with it. There we go. Okay. So what you can do is you can pin stitch along here all the way along the collar, or you can hand stitch it, do an invisible stitch. It's up to you. So I'm actually going to do it, haven't decided. I think I'm going to pin stitch, like machine stitch the back part of the collar and then hand stitch this bit, I think. Haven't decided. Okay, here we go. So just making sure again that all of my fabric's out of the way. Okay, just pivoting this fabric around. Making sure it's overlapped nicely. I'll just show you, so you would actually sew up to here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it. Why the hell not? Pivot. Then I'm just lining up that edge with the other edge. So then I better do the other side by machine too. Okay, so here we go. You can see on, we just sewed in here, you can see on the outside, it's kind of pin stitched on the outside. That's because how I was lining it up. And when we fold it over, you won't really see that too much. Okay, that is how you do the collar application.